I am pleased to inform you that we have arrived at the labyrinth. Please be advised that electrical storms on the surface of Tartarus. Resident count is as follows. The interior can... I would also ask that you leave your captain's ID with me, in the event that you do not return. Understood. If you die or are incarcerated for life... Oh, speak of the devil. Captain,
Attention, unauthorized spacecraft. This is a... You are hereby confined to your docking platform until a ticket detailing your crime... Your ship is not permitted to leave only after your smoking corpse is thrown...
Captain, I would not...
Protocol, the sentencing of one... Tartarus Docking Authority signing up. Hang on. Looks like you're gonna have company at the execution. Another ship just pulled into your dock. Wait, is that from the groundbreaker? What the... Pay no mind to that, just...
Transmission terminated. How can I... May luck be...
The captain did right by us once. Now it's our turn. The board will never own groundbreakers. Not while I breathe. Push on, my guy.
Everyone all right? As you were.
Gotta admit, I'm not too keen on walking into a prison. They lock me up, I'm liable to kill everyone trying to get back out.
This might be the loneliest place in the whole system.
Whew. We have a lot of shooting to do, Captain. I am a storm! What? Yeah, they...
half the bars when he's got a storm like that guarding the gates.
I've gotta admit, I'm not too keen on walking into a prison. They lock me up, I'm liable to kill everyone trying to get back out. Whew. We have a lot of shooting to do, Captain.
What was that?
Get ready!
I'm working as fast as I can, all right? If y'all... Fixing the FPS system. FPS system. It's redundant, Melody. Forced passive... Anyway, I need... Of course. Well, you ain't up. Fixing the Any... Well, we don't always get...
Like a raft among the rocks.
All right, MSI. I'm not running around these streets, but the captain needs our help. So get in there and fight.
I see you next! Go!
look who it is. I'll be... I had heard you'd taken a mechanic under your wing.
The captain's treated me right. Better than any of you bored folk ever have. I'm exactly where I want to be.
Ah, I knew I smelled Monarch when you...
Keep talking, and you'll be smelling iron.
When you go off and get yourself shot, try... My word! It's a wonder what Phineas saw in you. Then again, he's an insane person. Yes, he is an extraordinarily obstinate but that's between us. As far as my adoring citizens will know. Oh yes, go on, wake them up, add more mouths. I don't know what half-baked plans that simpleton in a lab coat has been... Let me ask you something, Captain. Have you at any...
We're helping.
I'm making actual... If I and my people can ride it out in luxury and happiness, we'll have to agree to disagree. I've got work to do. I've got work to do.
Everyone all right? This is nice. Calm before the storm and all that.
Whatever comes of this, I'm just real glad to know you all.
Captain, you have an uncanny talent for You've been working with Dr. Wells from the beginning. When we moved, You've disrupted the balance of power. You've... I'm afraid for all your talent, Dr. Wells is being held in my custody. All that's left to do is put down... Fair enough. Yes, I'm quite aware of your brazen act of corporate vandalism. My scientists assure me they can recover the data you've destroyed. That isn't true. That experiment was absolutely essential to... You're telling the truth. We're going to have to start all over again. You were always an unknown variable. This prison is equipped with an automechanical... And don't worry.
Why won't you just...
That's the last of them!
You don't know how glad I am to see you. You did the right thing. Akande was a monster. Her death was much deserved, and long overdue. And you lunatic, you broke into the board's own fortress just... I'm all right, thanks to you. Akande wanted my cooperation. You've broken the board's stranglehold on this colony. You and I are going to have to work... I would like nothing more than... Earth has gone dark. We haven't received a single message in 3 years. 2 years ago, the Earth's Directorate's frigate disappeared on their way back.
So we've got to make do on our own. Seems...
You're quite right. We've got no choice.
You mean... we're all alone out here?
I'm afraid so, Miss Holcomb. Halcyon is the only home we have. We're in serious trouble, my friend. Do you know what this means for Halcyon? We can't rely... Yes, we do. You've done a We must begin the revival process immediately, starting with the hope. We're going to need a leader, and I... When I revived you, I thought you were... I had our roles reversed, you see. You're the best thing to ever happen to Halcyon. We're not a colony any longer. Our future is uncertain, and no one...
The OSI teaches that everything in the universe happens according to the grand plan. But the stranger that arrived in Halcyon was an unplanned variable. From the moment she landed in Emerald Vale, her actions altered the course of history. The events on Tartarus brought about the end of the board's authority. But the board's mistakes would haunt the colony for decades to come. The damage they left behind would require the work of a generation to repair. Dr. Phineas Wells began reviving a handful of the Hope's colonists. Engineers, scientists, technicians, and intellectuals. They were among the brightest minds the Earth had ever sent out into the stars. The Hope scientists and engineers woke up in a colony descending headlong into total collapse. With no way to return to Earth, they had no choice but to band together and devote themselves to the cause of saving Halcyon. The people of Halcyon were nothing if not hardy. In the absence of the board's authority, many of the colony's settlements banded together with a single purpose in mind: survival. Life was especially hard in the years to come. Some towns dissolved by attrition and starvation, but most of them found a way to carry on. In the years to come, Halcyon was forced to reckon with its newfound freedom. The board was gone, and for better or worse, the colony was responsible for its own destiny. Sanjar's civil liberties and worker-centric policies were slow to catch on with the other corporations. But as Halcyon began its long, arduous journey toward recovery, many of Terra 2's smaller townships started adopting MSI's alternative corporate structure, and eventually became entirely self-sufficient. In the coming years, many of these townships managed to eke by, where otherwise they might have starved. Sublight Salvage adapted to the changes in Halcyon, shifting their business model to suit the times. Their claims of legitimacy were scrutinized, but ultimately unquestioned. Lilia Hagen would continue to protect her family as ruthlessly as ever. The collapse of Edgewater left its workers bereft of any purpose in life. Most of them made their way to Adelaide McDevitt's camp, hoping to ingratiate themselves into her favor. Adelaide accepted only a few to her community. The rest were turned away and likely died of starvation. Nevertheless, Adelaide's camp grew into a well-established town. Adelaide McDevitt refused to cooperate with the ongoing effort to save Halcyon from collapse. A sympathetic deserter stole a copy of her research and delivered it to the Hope's scientists. It is unclear how useful Adelaide's research was. An optimistic estimate suggests her work may have bought Halcyon another few years of survival. Adelaide would never know. She died that winter. Under the leadership of Junlei Tennyson, the Groundbreaker held firm against corporate influence. The ship's mechanical stability gave Junlei the time to educate a promising generation of engineers, schooled in her family's traditions. The future of the Groundbreaker looks promising. The rediscovery of the Hope and the abandonment of the lifetime employment program forced Byzantium to come to terms with some uncomfortable realities about the state of Halcyon. While Byzantines were reluctant to surrender the luxuries they'd grown accustomed to, the board's diminished authority gave them little choice in the matter. Nearly everyone had to learn to make do with less. Some even had to get jobs. It was a dark time indeed. Ellie savored her adventures on the Unreliable. Once they were done, she returned to life as usual, running missions of dubious legality, shunning respectable work, and living life to the fullest. She meant to reach out to her one-time captain, but she was always bad at keeping in touch. Life in Halcyon was sobering for Felix Millstone. The grand revolution he dreamed of never came. There was no great awakening for the colony, no celebrations in the streets. There was only the hard, desperate work of trying to repair a broken colony. Felix never had a head for numbers, but if there was labor to be done, he was there to help. Eventually, Felix realized that the work of a revolution was done with two hands. After all he'd seen and heard adventuring with you, the vicar Maximilian de Soto renounced his faith and joined the effort to rebuild the colony. Ironically, he finally found the joy that had eluded him over the course of his life, and realized that perhaps he was always meant to be just a simple laborer after all. He quickly dismissed the idea. Though Parvati eventually grew comfortable aboard the Unreliable, she never quite came out of her shell. She seemed to prefer the company of Ada to the crew, and she could often be found neck-deep in cables and grease, telling Ada funny stories from her childhood. While the colony fell into chaos, she found an island of relative peace with Ada, and they formed an unusual bond. She decided to remain aboard the Unreliable permanently as its chief and sole engineer. As hard as she tried to drink them away, Nyoka's memories eventually overcame her. Traveling with the crew served as a constant reminder of the family she'd lost, and so she eventually returned to Monarch to get back to what she found most comfortable: the deep end of a bottle and the far end of a trail. Few have seen her since, but travelers often swear they hear her and her machine gun in the night, screaming swears and spitting bullets. Before his untimely death, Captain Alex Hawthorne had plans to restore and modify, for combat purposes, a sanitation and maintenance automechanical that he'd found in a state of disrepair in Emerald Vale's scrapyard. That unit remains broken down and forgotten in the Unreliable supply closet to this day. Minister Clark was released from house arrest, and his contact with you gave him a sense of renewed purpose and vigor. Once it became clear that no help would be coming from Earth, he threw his considerable efforts and talents into helping Halcyon manage the crisis before it. As for Dr. Phineas Wells, he spent his remaining years in his orbital lab. He eventually came to terms with his own past, and was able to forgive the mistakes of his younger self by devoting his remaining years to serving the colony. Dr. Wells was able to revive many more scientists and engineers than he first expected, thanks to the additional batch of chemicals you stole from the Ministry. Wells never forgot about the human lives that were lost in acquiring these chemicals. In the end, Dr. Wells was able to save every scientist and engineer aboard the Hope. Over the next decade, nearly all of the Hope's remaining colonists were successfully revived. Halcyon saw a period of rapid technological and scientific advancement. Breakthroughs in dietary supplements saved the colony from starvation. Geoengineering projects and social reforms began to change the structure and character of the colony. Dr. Wells laid the groundwork for the project to save the colony, but he would never live to see the fruits of his labor. He passed away a few years later. His work was carried on by the scientists and engineers he revived. Today, Halcyon has stabilized. The people of the colony work hard to adapt to their new circumstances. Nearby colonies send aid and supplies. Life will never be easy in Halcyon, but for the first time in its history, there exists a sense of real, genuine hope about the future. And what about you, the unplanned variable in the history of Halcyon? Long after Wells passed away, you carried on his work with more energy, determination, and brilliance than he could ever muster. The years that followed were hard, but Halcyon survived by the efforts of the Hope's most promising colonists, the greatest of which was you. No one knows what's happened to Earth, and no one knows what the future has in store for Halcyon. All we know for certain is this: the name of the Unreliable and that of its intrepid captain will remain the subject of countless stories for years to come.